What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about who should Chelsea sign to be their new striker. I feel like everyone knows that the biggest issue with our club is that we don't have a goal scorer or a centre forward who can put the ball in the back of the net. Like, Chelsea seem to be the least clinical team in the league. You know, this was actually a thing with Graham Potter at Brighton as well, but this predates Graham Potter in my opinion, because under Thomas Tuchel, we couldn't score goals either, even with Lukaku, even with Werner. Havertz is not really a striker, not really a goal scorer. So we clearly need a centre forward that fits the bill and wants to be at Chelsea. You know, I feel like Lukaku, he wasn't my first choice to come. I didn't want him. I wanted Haaland. I think everyone did. And I think the Lukaku signing was a bit of a panic buy. And clearly he didn't work out. Who should be our new centre forward? Do we even need a centre forward? Obviously, we've heard people allude to the fact that Man City and even Liverpool played without a striker for a long time. But it seems like the football meta is going back towards having a big centre forward, you know, Haaland, Darwin Núñez. Obviously, Man United looking for somebody as well to play up front. Harry Kane's been good for a long period of time. So it's looking like that number nine is coming real back into fashion, that sort of traditional number nine. So I've got some options here that I've written down. Obviously, we're seeing Chelsea be linked to anyone and everyone who's a centre forward. The biggest name and the first one I want to talk about, who would also be my choice to be to come to the club, is obviously Victor Osimhen. I mean, he's having his best season so far. I remember a few years ago when Chelsea played Lille in the Champions League and he was playing up front and he was a bit raw back then, and a lot of people kind of talking about, is Tammy Abraham better than him? Is Osimhen better than Tammy Abraham? And they were kind of valued about the same, you know, considered about the same skill. But I feel like Osimhen has gone leaps and bounds in front of Tammy Abraham, because I think we were linked to him back then as well. He was just a bit raw. He needed a few more years to hit his pace. But every time I watch him, man, the guy is a problem. Like, he's so big and physical. He has that presence up front. Like, he's maybe not got like the crazy mentality of like a Diego Costa where he's trying to beat you up, but he's so athletic and physical. I mean, in the air, if you look when we play, we put so many good crosses into the box. Whether it's Reece James, Chilwell, we obviously have Enzo Fernandez, even João Felix, Havertz. Like, we put some great balls into the box, and nobody's there to tap it in or head it in. When I watch Napoli play, because I've watched a few of their games, Osimhen is getting on the end of everything, heading the ball into the back of the net. I feel like if we have this guy at Chelsea, he's going to be heading the ball in for fun. He's going to be scoring goals for fun. He's got the profile to fit the Premier League. He's also, I don't know if he's a Chelsea fan, but he was pictured in a Chelsea shirt when he was a kid. Not that that means anything, because Kylian Mbappe was pictured in a Chelsea shirt once upon a time. But Osimhen did say that his hero is Didier Drogba, so I mean that bodes well. Chelsea and African players, I don't think we miss when we sign African players. I feel like every African player we sign is top quality. You know, Sen, Drogba, Kalu was good for a while, like a solid player. Mikel, obviously, someone we had who was very good. I feel like add Osimhen to that. I mean, the guy is an absolute beast. Like, if you don't, like, literally just go watch some of the goals he scores and you'll see how he fits into our team. Of course, though, the biggest issue is like he's gonna cost like 120 million plus, right? We're probably gonna have to break the British transfer record again and then some to get him in. Although I think it would probably be worth it. Of course, he has a few other options because Man United need a striker. PSG may be also looking for a striker if they get rid of one of their front three. Obviously, not going to get rid of Mbappe, but Mbappe wants to play as a left winger, not a centre forward. So could that be an option for them? Obviously, Bayern Munich also need a striker, but they are not going to spend 100 million on anybody, right? They're going to try and keep the fee low because they don't really spend huge amounts of money. But Osimhen would definitely be my first choice. In terms of some other decent names I've heard, obviously Harry Kane is another big name who Tottenham are really struggling. It looks like Conte is about to get sacked. So will Harry Kane try and force a move again, or will he stay at Tottenham? I feel like Harry Kane's a great goal scorer. I feel like, you know, in big moments he does struggle, but of course, you know, he's going to guarantee you 20 goals a game, and of course, he's going to score a lot of goals in Chelsea's team. But I don't see Tottenham ever letting Harry Kane go to Chelsea. If they wouldn't let Luka Modric go to Chelsea, why would they let Harry Kane go to Chelsea? Obviously he's a bit older as well. Osimhen's I think 24, Harry Kane's 30. So I mean, the age of our team and what we're building for, is Harry Kane still going to be a top striker in 3 or 4 years? Because it's going to cost like 100 mil probably. So is he still going to be that guy in 3 or 4 years when some of our players are entering their peak? You know, Enzo Fernandez, Badiashile, Madueke, Mudrik, some of these young players we bought are going to be 25, 26, and he's going to be like 35. So I feel like the age gap there is a bit of a interesting one. I also just think Tottenham will not sell them to us. I think if he goes anywhere, it will be Man United or Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich probably won't play the money, and I also think he wants to try and break Alan Shearer's record. So for me, I think Harry Kane will either stay at Tottenham or end up at Man United. We'll see what happens with that. I just don't see him going to Chelsea. The two other kind of big slash expensive names that I've heard is one is Vlahovic, obviously plays for Juventus. Very good player. I think Chelsea should have actually tried to buy him instead of Lukaku because he would have cost about 50 million back then when he was at Fiorentina. He was 21 years old. I just feel like he was a much better option than going for Lukaku, but we didn't. He ended up at Juventus in January, didn't want to go to the Prem, didn't want to play for Arsenal. Maybe that's because Arsenal looked pretty bad last year in January. Now look at them. Obviously, Juventus got hit with that points deduction. Their finances are a bit dog shit, so they're probably looking to offload a few players. Would it be looking to offload Vlahovic? I doubt it. Does he want to leave Juventus? I don't know. Well, is it a potential option? I just think because of the unrest that Juventus, Vlahovic's name has been linked. But I could see him going to Bayern Munich, actually. Vlahovic gives me a Bayern Munich striker essence, right? But I think he'd be a decent option for us. Also very young as well, so he fits our timeline. Another big name who would cost a lot of money is Ramos from Benfica. I don't think Benfica will be looking to do any deals with us anytime soon after the Enzo Fernandez thing. Apparently, he's going to cost 120 mil. And I think with Ramos, the issue with him is, yes, he's broke onto the scene. Yes, he scored quite a few goals. Obviously, he had that massive game for Portugal when he replaced Ronaldo. But he's obviously very young. He gives me that essence that he's 1 or 2 seasons off being a top player. Kind of like João Felix, kind of like Darwin Núñez, right? Maybe if they'd stayed at Benfica for 1 more year, they would have had that development and that game time rather than being thrust into a team and trying to be the main man. Because we saw Atletico, João Felix really struggled. Never really hit the potential he had as a player for like, what was it, 113 million or whatever it was. And then we've seen Darwin Núñez's struggles. They both look like very good players. It's just they needed a bit more time to hit that top level. When you get thrust in and expected to be a world-class player straight away, it can be very difficult. I think a similar thing will happen with Ramos. I think he's just there at Benfica for 1 more year and to see what happens with that. I also just think if you're willing to spend 120 million on a striker, something like that, you might as well just get Osimhen, if he's available, that is. Some of the lesser names that I've been seeing, Ivan Toney's a big one. Obviously, it kind of hinges on his gambling charges, doesn't it? Like, is he going to get charged? Is he going to get a ban? Like, we've seen, like, big clubs maybe don't want to touch players with a bit of a reputation, although he is in the England squad, and England are the one sort of team that will not use you if you have any allegations on you. So I like Ivan Toney. I think he's a good player. To me, he doesn't seem good enough to play for Chelsea. Like, no offense to him, very physical player. He's a great striker in the Prem. I just think he scores a lot of penalties. You know what I mean? For me, he doesn't have that aura of a striker. I don't think he's good enough to play for Chelsea, personally. Now, I'm very happy to be proved wrong, but I just don't think Ivan Toney is good enough for Chelsea. Maybe as a backup striker, but not as a starting centre forward that you're going to win leagues and Champions League. I just don't think he's at that level. Another one is Mitrovic, who Chelsea have been linked to. I like Mitrovic as a player. He gives me that Diego Costa vibe. I do think with his feet, he sometimes struggles with like short build-up and passing play. He can struggle. Obviously not the quickest, but in the air, he's amazing. And, you put the ball into him, he's going to score a bunch of goals. It's just his consistency does struggle. The biggest thing for me is his mentality. We saw he just got a red card and he might be banned for the rest of the year. So for me, Mitrovic, you don't want your striker to be getting sent off and having disciplinary issues. He also gives me very like Loic Remy or Demba Ba vibes, who are very good players in other lower tier Premier League clubs, scored a lot of goals. And when they came to Chelsea, yes, they scored goals, but they were never really able to lock down that number 9 position and make it theirs. They were always a backup. So I think that's what Mitrovic gives me those vibes. I do really like him as a player, though. I wouldn't be really disappointed if Chelsea signed him. I won't lie. Another name I mentioned earlier, former Chelsea striker Tammy Abraham, would cost us 70 mil. Personally, I don't think he's had a lot of development since he left Chelsea. I think he scored a lot of goals in Italy. But then again, I don't think he's been amazing. I don't think he set the world on fire. I don't think he's worth 70 million. You know what I mean? We basically paid, if we buy him back, we basically would have paid Roma 30 million to loan him for 2 years, which for me would be a bit crazy. I do like him, I just don't think he's good enough. Another young player that's been mentioned is Andre Santos' friend, I guess. They were both in that under-20s Brazilian team that won that tournament recently. Victor Roque, he's been linked to Barcelona. I think since we're going with a bunch of young players, why not? He looks like a really, really good young Brazilian striker. I mean, if you can get him, why not? Like, you're already trying to experiment with a lot of young players. Could this guy be, like, a really good player? Like, something similar to what Julian Alvarez is for Man City? I really like Julian Alvarez, to be honest. I wish we would have got him. And if Victor Roque is something like that, like a young South American striker who could bang in goals or maybe play backup to one of these guys, why not get him and someone else? And the last person I want to talk about is Nkunku. Because do we need a striker? That's the last question we have to ask. Do we actually need a centre forward? Because Nkunku, he's not a centre forward, but he plays kind of a false 9 role. He can play off anywhere really in the front line. Havertz, I don't like Havertz as a false 9. Honestly, as a striker, that's not his player. He's not got that poacher's instinct. Yes, he scores a few goals. His finishing ability is not there. I just don't think he's a striker. I think he excels playing behind a striker, whether it's on the wing or behind a striker. That's where he needs to be. João Felix, if we do sign him, again, not a false nine. He needs to play behind a striker. So the top three I would go for is I would go Victor Osimhen number one, Dusan Vlahovic number two. And honestly, it's a toss-up between Mitrovic and... I would really like to see Victor Roque as a young player at our club. I don't think we'll do it. I like to see him and a top striker. I would like to see Mitrovic if we could get him. Obviously, Lukaku is Lukaku an option to come back. You know what I mean? Personally, I don't want to talk about Lukaku. I don't think he has a future at Chelsea. I think he's burnt that bridge with the fans. But, you know, if Graham Potter wants to give him a chance and he comes in next season and he starts scoring goals, I think the fans will start to take to him. But I just don't think he wants to be at Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea want him. I don't think the fans want him. So, and everything, the noise that's coming out is the owners don't want him. They're going to get rid of him. He's not in the plan. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But like I said, Victor Osimhen, Dusan Vlahovic, they're the top two targets I would go for. Could we go for a stopgap like a Mitrovic or an Ivan Toney? Again, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but we'll see what happens. You guys let me know who you want to see in Chelsea's number 9 position. Who's the right guy to carry on that reputation? Hopefully the good reputation of Didier Drogba and Diego Costa and Ida Johnson and Hernan Crespo, not the reputation of, you know, Torres and Werner and Morata and Lukaku. Hopefully the striker we sign is going to score lots of goals, not be a flop. But yeah, that's what I got for you today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all in the next video.